is the second in our Interrogating Boundaries series for this semester. And before we begin, there are a number of people who I once again want to thank. First of all, our provost, Ken Green, and our dean, Barbara Salmore, who have been very supportive of this series, both last year and this. Special thanks to Michael Sperling, Vice Provost for Global Learning, whose office has given us not only moral support, but financial support to make this possible, and we appreciate it. And the staff in his office, Dalila Sahanik, and particularly Diana Svitten, who has done so much to organize these events for us. David Rosen, Chair of the Department of History and Social Sciences. That department is co-sponsoring that series with us this year. And also the members of the committee that really put the series together for this year. Diana again, Jack Becker, David Rosen, Jason O'Brien, Mark Sapara, Joan Desolitz, Riyad Nasser, Martin Donoff. And particularly, I want to thank Nandita Ghosh, who really conceived of the whole idea of such a series and has played such a central role in moving it forward. We're very honored today to have with us Mian Qadrud, whose history really is quite amazing here, and I'll just give you some highlights. He has his MA in Economics and Law from the University of Cambridge, and he's had quite a distinguished career both with the Foreign Service of Pakistan and with the United Nations. He joined the Foreign Service in 1962 and served in the embassies of Pakistan and Washington, D.C. from 66 to 68, and the Embassy of Prague from 68 to 1971. Then he returned to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs as Director of the Eastern European and the UN desks at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Islamabad from 71 to 73. He joined the permanent mission of Pakistan to the UN in New York from 74 to 79 as counselor, rose to the rank of minister and deputy permanent representative in 1979. At the UN, he represented Pakistan in the General Assembly and the Economic and Social Council, as well as the Security Council. He returned to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in 1979 as Director General or Ambassador of the Middle East Desk. And in from 89 to 90, he served as Additional Foreign Secretary and Deputy to the National Security Advisor of the Prime Minister of Pakistan. He joined the UN in 1983 as Special Assistant to the Undersecretary General for Public Information and Secretary of the UN Committee on Information. Served as Director of the UN Information Centers in Bahrain and Tokyo in 1994, returned to New York as Director for Public Affairs and served in that capacity until 1999, and in December 99 was appointed Chef de Cabinet, Chief of Staff of the UNRWA at the organization's headquarters in Gaza, serving in that capacity until January of 2003. That's quite a mouthful and quite an impressive list of accomplishments. So it's my pleasure and honor to introduce our speaker today, Mian Qadrud.
Good morning. I was welcomed with a warm cup of tea. You might have seen me consuming it, and that put me in the right mood for this beautiful campus. I must say I was very impressed by the grounds and the whole appearance of the place. And now I have joined you, and I'm deeply impressed by the distinguished audience I face I see very few students, if any, and so this is going to be quite an ordeal. However, I remember discussing this presentation with Professor Ghosh, Nandita, if I may, and I had at first thought that I would dwell on my most recent experience, that was in Gaza as chef de cabinet or chief of staff of UNRWA, and to describe what was going on there with the Palestine refugees. But I was advised that later that these Israeli-Palestinian issues had been discussed a great deal in this forum, and we needed to focus on other regions and other movements of populations and their effect on particularly the receiving countries in the various ways that it does happen as populations interact with the host countries. It's a challenge that I had to undertake. Such interactions between the incoming refugee population and the local populations have, of course, economic and social effects on the local conditions, as well as on the local culture. And indeed, over time, such large movements of populations create new and often complex political conditions. For a former UN official, a straightforward description of the UN's machinery designed to provide humanitarian assistance to refugees and the many organizational and legal issues that come from that was a relatively easy task. But this broader examination of the often tectonic changes that movements of large populations can bring about poses a much more difficult challenge. A challenge that Nandita put to me, and a challenge that I intend to undertake. In doing so, I have to go back deeply into what I have experienced directly. This is notwithstanding my experience with the United Nations. And I go back, as we talk, to even my childhood days. I plan, therefore, to address two case studies of major refugee population movements that I've had the opportunity to observe and experience directly. Directly, that is, in my country, that is Pakistan. The two movements were separated by some 3 decades in point of time, and indeed by much more in the developments that created the crises, that caused the refugees to leave their normal places of residence, by the response of the international community to them, and by the short and long-term impact of the infusions of the new populations in the receiving country. I shall first talk to you about the largest refugee crisis of the past century, a movement of some 10.5 million people in 1947